Good evening and welcome to Flames Unfiltered. I am Burud, joined alongside Kyle Lewis each and every week talking Flames hockey. We're back, and this is the third episode of this season, and we've had lots to talk about, and it doesn't quit tonight. It's probably been my most exciting. Is that even the way to say that? I don't know.
Try again.
Probably been
it's the most excited you've been about
preseason, and it's been the most entertaining preseason, and it's only this week's even going to get more entertaining with the decisions that have to be made.
Right? Yeah, there's a lot going on. A lot. I mean, yeah, it is that time of year, but there's a lot of different things going on too. Maybe we'll start with that. So, because it's pretty fresh in my mind and yours, because you actually watched it more recently than I did. But what do we think about this YouTube series, The Chase? You know, this inside the training camp, locker room, sneak peek, if you will, behind the scenes that a lot of teams have been doing, and some for a number of seasons now. But this is the first year Calgary's done it. What are your thoughts on that so far? How'd you like it?
I liked it because it's entertaining and it's the Flames. So obviously I liked it, but I do have a second thought on it though. I don't know that I want them to do it with my favorite team.
Dare I ask why?
Yeah, tonight might go wickedly off the tracks.
Our highest rated shows. Don't sweat it.
I know. The thing is, here's the deal. You know how like sometimes when you have a hero and you have a preconceived feeling of how they're going to be.
This is the whole never meet your heroes thing. Is that what this is?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So wait a minute. Who hurt you?
Well, okay, here's the deal. So I watched this today, right? And I had made up my mind on a couple difficult roster moves that are going to be really, really difficult for Conroy to make and Huska to make. And then I watched this video and it's like, I don't want to know these people because I don't want to have feelings other than how they play on the ice. Does that make sense?
Well, yes. I really stumbled on that one.
We're both having a go here.
So you don't want to experience feelings.
That relies on us talking. We're not doing a real good job of it so far.
Oh, that's not true. I'm just going to make this as entertaining as I possibly can. So just sitting with what you just said. So you don't want to feel things. You don't want to see them as human beings. You just want to see them as hockey players. Is that fair to say?
Yes. when it comes to hard decisions, that's what I want. You know what I mean? Like, I hate to see that. To build a good hockey team, sometimes you have to set emotions aside, right?
That seems like a great segue into the fact that Mike Keenan has a book I just found out about. Are you going to read that?
I will. Yeah, I will.
I will too. Even though every one of his ex-players that I've heard of recently said he was a garbage coach, I'm still curious. So I will likely pick that up at some point.
I will too.
But yeah, interesting. Back to the point though. I appreciate what you're saying. The humanizing aspect of it that I thoroughly enjoyed though was first and foremost Ryan Huska, because I loved the way he addressed the team. I loved how well spoken he was, and I didn't hear an overabundance of hockey cliches as we often do with these sorts of things. I liked hearing Conroy speak, seeing Iginla there and Jason Barbera.
Conroy would speak a lot more.
Well, because all he does is talk.
That's what I thought. When he got done talking, I was like, "Oh, that wasn't very Conroy-like." I don't know.
Yeah, but it's cool, and it wasn't too long. I didn't want to watch 2 hours, or even an hour. It was a really
21
good.
Minutes.
It was a good, thorough. It's something that I think the fans deserve to experience, and I will admit that, like the chase, which I presume was alluding to a playoff spot or ultimately the Stanley Cup, is a little bit overly optimistic, but it does inspire some optimism to watch that and see the energy and the pace, and talking with the guys that like Hunter Prestevich was talked about at length, and he's still on the roster, as we record this, like things like that.
What were they going to call it? From the ground up?
That probably would have made a lot more sense, been a lot more honest. But I mean, again, preseason, not meaning anything, which I want to emphasize again, it really doesn't, which I'll actually talk about something else related to that in a second. It really makes you think this is going to be a lot of fun this season. And we've talked at length about the results. Probably not going to, probably won't be ideal, but it's going to be fun. But as I just mentioned with the preseason, this is what I wanted to ask you about. what the fuck is going on with the preseason this year? There's so many injuries.
There's
and
dirty plays.
There's so many dirty plays and so many like aggressive things happening, especially with the Habs. Like, holy. And not being the aggressors in every case, but man, they are like, fisticuffs.
I think there's a couple. What's the goofball in New York's name? I'm just drawing a blank on it. The guy that we talked about all year last year in the hockey world for no reason we shouldn't have.
The fighter?
Yeah, what's his name?
Matt is it Rempe?
Rempe.
Big dude?
Yeah, I saw him running around too. And then you got the goofball in Montreal. I know these guys got to make the team. What are they doing in preseason? Like, is this? Oh, jeez, I can't even hit the mic. What are they doing though? Like,
well, that's what I'm trying to get my head around. I mean, everybody's trying to make an impression, so I understand you're going to, play in the edge a bit if you're trying to earn a spot or make a statement of sorts. But it's so reckless. Like, I don't think that the Line A situation was intentional, but it was still reckless. Like,
no. I thought I was listening to some talk radio on that this morning, and they said, there's a double-edged sword for that poor guy. I'm not defending him because it looked bad to me. It looked really bad. But the thing is, though, like in that situation, like if he lets that guy just walk by him, the coaching staff's going, oh, can't trust this guy out there. But then he makes that play, and it's like, ooh, that looked bad. So I don't know. So we can say, here's another thing. I heard a good point today, and I'm going to let you talk because gosh, you need to talk a lot on this episode.
I got you.
So what the hell was I going to say now?
About the player, making the play versus not making the play.
Well, it's these guys. Okay. Oh, this is what it was. So people were screaming, well, we just play too many preseason games. And I was listening to the talk radio today, and my first initial thought was, yeah, we do play too many preseason games.
I saw a tweet or something to that, something to that effect as well, like that it was too much preseason.
And they reference to the injuries. They were talking about it further, and they're like, no, we don't. The first two, you're running prospects. I mean, okay, so if we narrowed it down to 3 games, then we don't see how our prospects are, and the guys that are in the lineup are going to play those 3 games, which they're only playing 2 to 3 games now the way it is.
Yeah.
So I think this is like perfect right now because we get to see, like, think about this year in Calgary. If we'd had 3 games in the preseason, we would have needed to get Backlund and all those guys rolling, so they would have had to play those 3 games. We wouldn't have got to see half of our prospects.
Did you see that tweet about how if Calgary if they could legally keep all 36 players until having camp?
We're still 20 million under cap or 10 million under cap.
10 million, yeah.
10 million? Jeepers.
But my point is that, to your point, we'd actually have to carry that big of a roster because we'd have so few questions answered, right? Even guys like Grishnikov who just got cut. Like Grishnikov is
the guy's getting games this year. I tell you that.
Oh yeah, and he needs some AHL time. But I mean, at the end of the day, if that guy finished camp as your 7th defenseman, I don't think anybody would be upset based on how he played, right? So
I don't think so.
Now, similarly, I was at the Wildcats game, one of the games last weekend, Etienne Marnez's first game of the season with the Wildcats, and he got walked real bad on a goal against. And I mean, traveling from Calgary back to the East Coast here in Canada, jumping back in, after an NHL training camp, I expected he was going to have maybe not his best outing, but it really showed that he's got a little ways to go, which is fine. I mean, we all expected that, but if we didn't have all this preseason, we wouldn't know nearly as much as we need to know about the players. And we have to be honest with ourselves in that this analysis wherein they claim the preseason is too long is strictly an overreaction to the disproportionate amount of injuries we've seen so far. Because we're not talking injuries, we're not saying there's too many preseason games, in my opinion.
Well, I think you're still going to have that narrative because I think a lot of people...
It's there, but it's not as loud, right?
It's not as loud, no. And the thing is with the injuries, the goon stuff and the cheap shots, I'm not sure I quite understand. So I'm not defending those. But the other injuries, like the Drew Doughty one, which I feel bad for him. Probably not as bad. Yeah, okay. I was just going to be mean and say the same thing. But
well, actually, for guys getting long in the tooth, and I felt bad because one of the guys at work had taken him in our hockey pool. You never want to see guys get hurt. You really don't.
I don't want to see guys get hurt. But if I could pick and choose, you would be higher on my list. But what am I? This was off the rails.
That was funny.
But like an injury like that can happen in any game in any point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, it just injuries are going to happen. I don't know. I think preseason's fine the way it is.
Yeah, I don't take an issue with it, and I think there's going to be tough decisions no matter what happens between tonight's game and the last preseason game. But we need the preseason, especially where players come into the league so young now and from different feeder systems, whether it's through junior hockey, college, overseas. You really need that preseason action to see where these guys are at in terms of development. Otherwise, I think guys get in way too early and get hurt way too early in their careers. And things like that would happen. So I think it's the right length, even though we're all clamoring for the seasons to start. There's the preseason's fine. I'm
not going to lie. I've never been more excited for preseason games in my entire freaking life as I have been this year. I've been entertained.
Me neither.
I'm looking forward to tonight's game. I've really been entertained. So I don't know. So does that just roll the dice now? We want to talk about the difficult questions in camp now? Is this the time?
Yeah. Hey man, we're rolling. So we're rolling.
Okay. Zane Parekh sent down after 4 games.
Yeah.
Many people in the Flames fan base expected him to get 9 NHL games. That was the narrative all summer, right? And we saw a player that shows, in my mind, gigantic. God, did I say that right? Upside.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But the worries I had the day we drafted him are the reason he got sent down after 4 games.
You will 100%. I mean, I've talked to people who've coached against him and who scouted him extensively for NHL teams, and they were very clear in that this guy has all the makings of an absolute star. The way he moves the puck, the way he sees the ice, but defensively he is not NHL ready. And my point to those who want the 9-game edition, and I was one of them to some extent, we have so many defensemen that have something to prove. You don't just give him 9 games because you just want to see him, right? He didn't earn
defensemen that out earned.
But that's it. Grishnikov, Brustevich absolutely deserves a look in the NHL based on the camp he's had. There's no question about that in my mind on both sides of the puck, right? So it just didn't fit. If he showed so well that he earned the 9-game edition, he would have gotten it. This was the right decision.
It is the right decision.
Unquestionably, he's going to go back to junior and dominate again. And next training camp,
maybe he gets the 9-game.
He may get a look, but make no mistake about it. Defensively, this guy is at least 2 years away.
At least,
maybe a little more than that.
He's not on the roster opening day next year, and I'm not knocking him. I just think he. Okay, we always say that it takes a longer to develop defensemen than we do forwards, right?
Yeah.
And this guy wasn't very good in juniors at defense. It's going to be a project to get him to play that responsible defensive game. Now we can't change him as a player. And it was a comment he made during an interview after the draft that I am who I am. And I believe I'm paraphrasing there. That's not his exact quote. And yes, you are. But you still need to play the defensive game or be adequate at the defensive game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll see how that develops over the next 2 years.
And that's the thing. But I think when you have a shiny new toy, especially one with that much promise, that realistically, went lower in the draft than a lot of people thought he would. There's a lot of excitement around him, right?
Absolutely.
And it's important to remember that. But again, it's not like years past where we had a lot of empty cupboards and 1 or 2 players to be excited about. We have a lot of players to be excited about. So, and this one's just not ready yet. And the way that he took being cut, great. I think he knew it too.
Yeah. I think he knew it too. I think it was a hell of a learning experience. And I was super happy with his comments when he went down. It was it made me believe that he's going to go try to learn and grow this year in other aspects of his game.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. So and I'm kind of glad that talk has since quieted down because the team is getting very close to what the roster is going to be. So
Oh, there's a lot of decisions.
there are the difficult ones, but this was the right one. So what else are we looking at? What else is on your mind?
I got a lot. So, you want to go with the good or the bad?
Oh, it's one of those types of things. Okay. Let's start with the bad.
Okay, Jacob Pelletier. Difficult decision. And this is bad because I did not think this decision was going to be this hard. I expected to see the old Jacob Pelletier. What am I saying too? And why are we as Flames fans saying the old Jacob Pelletier? We saw a span of a short segment where he was impactful, and it gave us all a ton of hope, and I still have that hope. I'm not ready to throw that hope into the garbage, but I do have a couple very harsh comments to make in the fact that if this if this general manager and coaching staff are going to stick true to their word, I have no idea how he's on our opening night roster.
The problem very specifically and pointedly is that, he has to clear waivers. And then you have a Yusuf Alamaki situation where he likely becomes a very useful piece, maybe better elsewhere. I don't think he's good enough to be in the opening night lineup or hasn't shown as much thus far. But I think he's going to be on the roster solely because they don't want to risk losing him. And they're hoping that, maybe through practice and working in a few games that he'll find his game. I don't know. It's really hard to cut bait on him, this soon, I think.
It is hard. But he is, but what I think a lot of us forget in this fan base that he is 23 years old. Albeit I will defend the fact that he was injured for a chunk of that. And he came out of the COVID part of it where he was robbed of games. So I'm not naive to the fact, but I sit there and I'm like, okay, he was our first round pick 5 years ago. And Kyle, me and you have had this conversation 100 times. The one thing that I don't understand about Canadian fan bases versus US fan bases is that they hold on to their love for first round Canadian boys picked.
Yeah.
With hearts of like I don't know. They don't cut bait. And I'm not saying that I want to cut bait yet. I think we deserve to give him a little bit. But right now, I don't even know how that looks. So do we keep him in that 13th forward spot? And then we got to tell another guy that was better that you got to go home. I'm sorry, Dryden Hunt. Sorry, you got to go.
Wow.
I mean, this is a really
the difference there. Yeah, Dryden Hunt's are a dime a dozen in my mind. I've never.
Is Jacob Pelletier a dime a dozen?
We don't know yet. That's the difference. Is we don't know yet.
How long are we holding a spot for him?
A prolonged period in which he doesn't suffer an injury, assuming that's the case.
So we're going to put him in our lineup and play him when other players are better.
We're going to keep him on the roster, and we're going to play.
We are going to play. Oh boy.
Well, but again, what else do you do? Because he lost so much development time last year, right? He lost what was, many thought would be a championship season here when he was captain of the Wildcats when COVID first hit. Like, the guy has had a lot of bad luck in his NHL trajectory.
He totally has. Yeah. But do you honestly believe, if I had to put a percentage on it, what percentage do you think he's an everyday NHL player for the Calgary Flames?
52%, just to be an asshole.
Jesus. You do think it's as high as 50%?
Yeah, because when he's shown well, he's shown really well. We just haven't seen it for an extended length of time.
I haven't seen it for a long time.
When would you have seen it, right?
The second half of last year, he was.
But here's what happened. He came back from the surgery, claiming to have felt great, and then re-injured, albeit a different injury, but the same shoulder very quickly after, right? So
I'll give him a pass. He had all summer, and all we heard that he was coming into camp, raring to earn a spot, and was in tip-top shape, and he's been a ghost all preseason.
Yep. And you couple that with, and this is probably some of the good you want to talk about, I'm going to guess one of them is Sam Honzek.
I got a list of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of guys on this roster that have really made me very optimistic
Yeah.
about our prospects. And you know what? If you've listened to any of the 6 seasons of this show, I'm probably the worst critic of our prospects over the last 6 years as there is. I've always said we think our prospects are better than they are. And I don't know that I've been wrong, but now I look at our prospects and what I'm seeing this camp, and even previous to this camp, pretty damn impressed. I'm really impressed.
Yeah. Well, how couldn't you be?
But look at this. When you look at this, Kyle, here's the part that gets really, really, really sticky. I look at this depth chart, right? As I punch it up on my computer. So you're going to have to tell Honzek or one of the two for sure, Honzek or Coronato, that you're going to the AHL and we're keeping Jacob Pelletier.
There was a situation like this. I think it happened with the Baltimore Orioles. My buddy was telling me about, where they basically had to tell a player, listen, here's what we need to do because of our contract situation, and we're bringing you back. It was come playoff time in that circumstance. This is probably a similar discussion. So Sam Honzek, based on a lack of experience, because again, it is only preseason, so I don't get too excited about him, was probably the one who's going to be told.
I agree.
Yeah, we're going to send you down to the Wranglers. You're right there. You're the first injury call up, or you show what, like, we're not forgetting you, right?
Somebody is going to get injured. I know that, but I'm just saying.
Well, it could have been Nazem Kadri, when he had that, he tweaked his knee or whatever week ago, and it turns out he's okay. Thankfully, we could have had a line A situation.
We can't afford to have a center about it.
No, but it just, again, there'll be somebody, like even my hockey pool already, somebody had Doughty, somebody had Line A. I have Macklin Celebrini. It's like you just said, it's going to happen. So to me, based on the experience factor and how Coronato has just been dominant this preseason,
where does he fit into this? I don't see him on the lineup. I see him in the American Hockey League.
I think he's been too good for that. He needs to be on a scoring line. I
agree. See, to me, you can't put him on the fourth line, right?
That's a waste. And then people have talked about that. He'd be better off, doing the the AHL.
So I look at our top 9: Sharon Govich, Kadri, Kuzmenko, Zari, Backlund, Coleman, Huberdeau, Pospisil, Mantha. Where's Coronato fitting in that?
Well, I mean, somebody's taking a bump somewhere. And there's been talk of like Pospisil on the fourth line, for example, where he'd be better suited. Backlund can play down the lineup. Coleman as well. There's some versatile players here that, aren't necessarily known for their scoring touch. I know Coleman had, 30 goals last year. I don't think he repeats that necessarily. So there's ways to,
I would agree.
Yeah. So I don't know. Coronato's been too good not to get that chance. But if he goes 5 games into the season without a point, then you move on from that experiment, right?
So then you flip the narrative there and you look at our fourth line. And quite honestly, I think our fourth line's set. And if you don't have Rooney centering Lombardi.
Lombardi, yeah.
I almost called him Lamborghini. Lombardi and
Lomberg. Lomberg, you said Lombardi again.
Remember Lombardi? He played in the Flames.
I have one of his 2004 game worn jerseys downstairs. Love that guy.
I got it actually in my notes. I got Lombardi.
That's funny. Wow.
So you don't think Adam Klapka hasn't earned? This is a perfect spot for him. It's perfect for him.
And this has been talked about. Can you imagine a line of Lomberg, Pospisil, and Klapka?
Yes, but I don't like that. I would rather have Pospisil up the lineup, and I'd rather have Rooney doing that. What did Rooney do wrong in this preseason? He's been good.
He's your quintessential 13th forward. I'm not interested.
No, he's not. He can win faceoffs. He kills penalties.
God, okay.
This guy needs to be our center of the fourth line.
He's
one of the best penalty killers.
Is your first game worn jersey going to be a Kevin Rooney jersey?
No. It's going to be a Michael Stone. No.
You want to send you mine?
How quick I was. No.
Yeah, that was great. I like that.
Rooney, Klapka, I don't know. Lomberg are the guys. That's my fourth line right now.
Okay.
I don't know, and that what that does is that forces Dewar on waivers which I really don't want to do that, but he hasn't done anything to prove it to me. He hasn't been better than Klepka. He hasn't.
No. You probably lose him on waivers, and based on the trajectory of our younger players, that wouldn't upset me. And if that's the case, I hope he does really well elsewhere because he's a very likable player. But
I don't think we lose him. I don't.
I don't think we do either. I'm just saying it's possible. I mean, especially if somebody else has an injury.
Let me ask you this question: Do we actually lose Pelletier on waivers right now?
Yep, absolutely.
You think someone takes him?
First round pedigree.
I don't care.
No, but you don't. But others do.
Well, why? Can somebody explain to me why?
Absolutely. Look what happened with Valimaki. As soon as he got plucked by Arizona, he resurrected his career. Now he's a top four defenseman in the NHL.
Do you think he's going to?
People like that's just what they do, and I can't blame them. I mean, a fresh start somewhere else, and I don't think we're there yet, but it's very possible. Like
I don't know. I'm just keep going back to listening to what we were told all year that there is spots to be earned.
Mm-hmm.
And people are gonna the door's open to take spots, and I just don't know how you can sit and look at some of these guys. And I sit and I'm not saying that I honestly, if I was doing the lineups, I did it last night. I don't have Honzek with the Flames to start the season. I don't. I have him in the American Hockey League. I think he's going to do great there, and I think he'd probably be the first call up. Now he's leading the National Hockey League in preseason points. He's unbelievable. He's been great. He's scored some great goals. He's made some good passes. But I don't have him on my roster because I don't know where he fits. Like, I don't know where he fits.
There's not a spot there yet.
I don't see any good to putting him on the fourth line. I much rather have Klapka there. He's better in that role. I think Sam Honzek is better served going down to the Wranglers, and then coming up as soon as somebody in the top 6 is injured, boom, you fill him in.
Yeah, and then if the team, and I do like the honesty when Conroy talked about in the chase in the first episode about people not expecting much of them. If this team performs the way the pundits expect them to, after the trade deadline, all these guys are playing. Quite honestly,
we're gonna do predictions at the end of this show for the division.
Oh Lord.
You want me to remind you of last year's for you?
No.
But
I do not.
I don't think Calgary is going to be as bad as people think.
No, I don't think so either, but I don't think they're a playoff team.
I don't either.
Unless goaltending, which thus far it looks like it could be, is significantly better than we think. And Mathis scores 30, Sharangovich has 30 again, Huberdeau hits 75, Kadri hits 75, Uyghur has another 15 to 20 goals. Like, all those things have to happen, and I don't see all those things happening. So,
since you're drinking out of the Moose Cup here tonight,
yes, I have a Moose mug from Calgary.
Moose mug
on the back, for those of you watching on YouTube, it has Moose facts.
Perfect. What are the facts? What are the facts?
The facts are: moose antlers are used for fighting during mating season. Everybody knows that. Moose can run up to 35 miles per hour.
Yes.
Now, why this Canadian Calgary mug is in miles per hour, not kilometers, is beyond me, but that's fine.
That is very interesting.
Right? Yeah, I never noticed that before. The flap of skin that hangs from the chin is called a bell, which is ridiculous, but instinctively, moose know how to swim very well. Even calves can swim. So,
perfect.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for taking time for the Moose mug. Also, I'm wearing a T-shirt from Hitman's Bar in Calgary, which, I love that place. They had bartender, the manager there, Seamus, has a Flames Unfiltered T-shirt that he wears with Bride. So, give Seamus a little shout out. I'll be back there again soon.
So, I would like to know what his take is on this. What do we do with the goaltenders?
Who suggested the other day? I think it was somebody on Flames Nation had mentioned it, but going with Cooley and Wolf.
No, you can't.
I knew you'd say that. You're a big Dan Vladar guy.
I'm not a big Dan Vladar guy, but if we're going to get...
You're a big Dan Vladar guy.
It's God. Damn it. If we're going to give Jacob Pelletier 50 chances, we deserve to give Vladar at least one.
He hasn't had 50. Come on. Well, we're starting the season with 3 goaltenders. There's no question.
I think you have to, don't you?
Yes. I agree.
I think what you do, unless you get feeling really ballsy, you could try to slide them through the day everybody gets put on waivers.
Yeah.
I don't know that he slides through, though. I don't know.
Are there any significant? There's no significant goaltending injuries at the present time that we're aware of, is there?
You want to talk about the Boston Bruins problems?
Well, they like Dan Vladar in Boston. They take him back.
That's what I'm saying.
Hey, that situation to me is mind blowing. So
mind blowing. They just picked up a goalie today. Who did I see? Oh, Patera.
I was thinking of Ken Patera, wrestler from the 70s. That's funny.
Patera. I think it's Yuri Patera from the old Brandon Wheat King.
Oh, yeah? But, well, I don't understand that situation because there's been so much misrepresentation in the media, and Don Sweeney's kind of an odd interview. We should talk about that for a minute because it is interesting. So, Louis Gross is Jeremy Swayman's agent, and I'm curious what his honest take on all this is because obviously his prerogative is get the best deal he can for his client, but his client, I don't know where he thinks he has all this leverage from. He was a tandem goaltender with Linus Ullmark, who's now in Ottawa, of course. He's never been a Carey Price, Connor Hellebuck. Those are the best comparisons in my head because, then we get into legends like Patrick Waugh and Dominic Hasek and whatever. But he's never been the guy.
Nope.
So if I'm the Bruins, my only position is we're going to bridge you until you play 60-plus games and show us without a doubt that you're the guy. Then we're going to talk long-term big money. We're going to pay you big money for the 1 year, but we're not going to commit long-term to this because it's too risky. Goaltending is way too risky. I don't know what Swayman's camp is thinking. Apparently, he wants to be a Boston Bruin, which makes it even more confusing because if he really did, this thing would be done, in my opinion.
I agree.
I don't. It's the strangest,
messy, weird thing.
Yeah, and if they go in and Jonas Korpisalo is a good goaltender. He played behind a shit team in Ottawa last year that couldn't get anything together. He could surprise and have a pretty decent year, especially, the Bruins are still a pretty damn good hockey team.
They're a very good hockey team.
But I don't understand where Swayman's camp is. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And Don Sweeney is, also from New Brunswick, I'd like to point out. He's not a dummy. Like, he's protecting the best interest of his team by saying we're not going to overcommit to this.
Where's Doug McLean?
Doug McLean's from PEI, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. That's
just a hop, skip, and a jump from here.
He always talks about that. Hey, he's from PEI. He's a PEI guy. He's a PEI guy.
There's a lot of them. Gerard Glant, for example.
Yeah.
Let me see. Where is Doug McLean from?
He's from PEI. That's where it is. I used to listen to him.
Coach at the University of New Brunswick. I went there.
I used to listen to him all the time, and I really miss listening to him. I really do. I miss him, and I miss Brian Burke on the radio so much.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure.
I do. I miss those guys, and I miss Jeff Merrick. My season's not going to be the same this year without Merrick. It's not.
Nobody's is. Such a low key role. He's the guy. Man, that guy's so underrated. It's a shame how that all went down, but is what it is. But yeah. So anyway, very interesting to see how the Swayman situation concludes. Very interesting.
If you're Craig Conroy, you're going in with 3 goalies to the start of the year, unfortunately.
I think you have to. Because it's not just because all 3 have played well. It's because there's so much uncertainty and inexperience amongst our goaltenders.
I agree. It's the same to do, right?
To waive Vladar and lose him to the Boston Bruins or someone else just ruins whatever little bit of insurance you have. Because who's your next guy? Walter Ignatieff? Like,
you know how goaltending is. It's such a fickle position.
Perfect word for goaltending is fickle. Thank you, Brad.
You like that, right?
It's not
a moose fact.
Loved it.
So one of the 3 is sure as hell not going to be good. Just freaking mathematics of it. If all 3 stood out and were starters in the National Hockey League, it'd be a fucking miracle.
Well, yes, I agree.
I don't know what to do.
Who's your opening night starter? Is it Wolf?
At this point, yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Jeez, I bet you're surprised. I thought you were going to be like, what the hell? You're not going Vladar? You love Vladar.
I know you don't love Vladar as much as I said you do.
I do. I actually, I think I look at him as a super reliable backup goalie. Like,
well, but it's funny because he had a terrible year last year, mind you. He was hurt.
Yeah.
We haven't seen much of that super reliable backup from him since his first season here. So
yeah,
but it's still there.
Last year, did we? Did we see anything good? Jacob Markstrom first 25 games unstoppable. After that,
yeah. Well, again, like you said, fickle. And then Devin Cooley, like everybody's been raving about him, not just because of his hilarious interviews, but like that guy's a lot better than people think. It seems so.
I'm telling you, Kyle, if there's one guy that I want to replace you on this show with, it's Devin Cooley.
Wow. That actually really hurt for a second. Oh, man.
Oh, geez. No, I'm kidding. He'd be a third, right?
He'd be way better than me. If he offered to do the show, I'd gladly step aside.
Shit, me too. I'd be like, Kyle, you run this. I'll just direct it.
Yeah.
No, he's just an entertaining guy. He just is.
Absolutely.
He's entertaining.
Future guest of the show, Devin Cooley.
I hope so. I would like that.
Yeah. We're not even going to interview him just to say, look, dude, we just want you to talk about whatever you want for 45 minutes. Call it a night.
That's right. What else do we got to talk about? I got a list here. We're not even halfway done with my list. You want to you know what? Let's do the X Factor right now.
I was just going to ask you, because I actually was looking for one, and I had a hell of a time finding one. So I'm curious what you came up with.
It's just it kind of just sums up where we're at right now with where this team's at. Brandon, Flames have like 15 forwards, 8D, and 3 goaltenders who all deserve to make this team. I do not envy the management's jobs for choosing who stays or goes. And it's been my narrative and what I've had on my mind, like literally all week, because I agree with him completely. Mm-hmm. There's 15 forwards and AD. This is a great problem. This is a problem none of us thought we'd have.
This is the best, again, well, as you alluded to, this is the best camp we've ever had.
It is. Name me the last time we had a camp, Matthew Tkachuk's camp, where it's like, well, we got to have him on the roster.
Yep. Yeah. I wish he'd listed, obviously we know most of them, but it would have been curious to see his breakdown of it. But I mean, the 3 goaltenders is obvious, but
8D, I would actually like to see a list. So you know what, Brandon, be Canadian Ape, if you're hearing this, to tweet us, add us to the tweet and name your 15 forwards. Yeah. Even though I agree, there's 15 of them that are good. Yep. Sam Morton, what are we doing with Sam Morton? He won't make the big club, but boy, I'll tell you what, he hasn't played a pro season yet, and he looks very good. And where's this guy going to develop into?
He's, apart from possibly Pospisil or Rooney, he's your 4th line center.
Well, they auditioned him the other night in Seattle. Did you see that? He centered Momberg and Klapka.
Yep. Look good doing it. I don't know, man. I don't. Next week's show is going to be fucking fascinating.
It's going to be unreal.
And I was talking about this the other day. Like, we don't use a lot of foul language. You just for emphasis here and there, but that's the best way I can put it. Yeah, it's going to be a doozy.
Andrew Basha signs 3-year entry-level deal.
Yes, he did.
What do you think of him?
Fantastic camp.
Yeah, I did.
He was fantastic camp. A little ways to go. Great offensive instincts. Great shot. Good skater. I love the camp he had. Similar to Parekh, it's like, I love everything you did. Just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. 100%.
So do you want to do our predictions for the Pacific, or do you want to wait till next week's show?
Let's wait till next week's show.
Let's do predictions and our projections next week on the show.
Yeah,
I'm gonna name
and only because we don't really know the makeup of our team quite yet. And also, I want to have lots of discussion around it. And I don't, we're 40 minutes into this now, so we don't want to rush that part.
We don't. We're gonna do that next week. There's a couple things I do want to talk about before we leave.
Of course.
I thought what the NHL's doing with honoring the Gaudreau brothers, the helmet decal, I really like that.
Yep. Same. I also appreciate the fact that the Jackets were given cap relief.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, I don't know how to explain it.
It was. I'm not trying to sound heartless or whatever, but like if it was in season when it happened, I could see it a little more than out of season. Albeit it was close to the season. How long did they get the relief for? I guess that's probably more my question.
I don't know all the details of it. I just this was a team that with John there would be significantly better than they were last year. Like, Monahan and him playing together again, Werenski, presumably not being hurt. Like,
what do you think the Players Association thinks of that?
Probably appreciated because it's
Do you think so? Because it's taking money away from players, though.
Yeah, but it's an opportunity for other players to go there and make money, right? Like James Van Riemsdyk, even though it was damn near league minimum, signed there because of the opportunity that unfortunately came about. So it's such a unique circumstance. I don't want to say too much about it because I'm just going to be ignorant if I try to do that. But
I'm just speaking on a mathematical thing. If we're going to be 50-50 with the players, this doesn't make it 50-50.
Yeah, but I mean, how often does something like this happen? Right?
So thank goodness, not very often. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
One other thing.
Yeah, I like the helmet tribute. I don't know. I still have a hard time believing that whole thing even happened. But anyway, I digress.
One thing we also want to remember is it was a year ago that we lost Flames assistant general manager Chris Snow.
Yeah.
Sometimes it seems like longer than a year ago, and sometimes it seems like yesterday. But
it's so interesting to me, like just that part. So when somebody is battling a terminal illness, but battles it for so long and so valiantly, like he did, it almost makes it more of a shock when they're gone.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. It's like you just said it. Like it feels like it was 5 years ago, and it feels like it was 6 months ago. It's strange.
Yeah, I guess there's no other way to describe it. But
yeah.
What do we got this week? We got Calgary and Winnipeg tonight. Friday night, Winnipeg comes to Calgary. That ends the preseason. And now next Wednesday, it all gets going for real as the Flames head to Vancouver on the 9th. And then their next game is the home opener Saturday, Hockey Night in Canada, Philly in Calgary. Weird to have an Eastern team to start the year off at home, but it is what it is, right?
So the game's 2-2 right now between the Jets and Flames.
Oh boy.
Martin Frick has a goal from Jake Bean and Cole Schwint.
Is it Justin Frick? It's
Frick, yeah, Frick, which is strange. Who allegedly has the hardest shot ever, according to Devin Cooley. And Justin Kirkland, Costco.
Because that just clears the air up even more. Bean's got an assist and Schwint's got an assist.
Bean's going to be a fun one to watch this year. I'm not sure what to expect from him.
I have no idea what to expect.
No.
Well, should we go on?
I wanted him to come back home when he signed in Columbus. So better late than never. We'll see how that shakes out.
Next week's episode. What do we got? We got predictions, projections. We're going to talk about the cuts and the waivers and everything that's going to take out this week. It's going to be a boatload. So next week's show, it's a can't miss. I mean, you can't miss next week's show. It's going to be that good.
Well, it seems to me not a lot of people have been missing our show lately because it seems like it's doing pretty damn good. So thanks everybody for all the support.
We appreciate it. We really do. We do this because we love talking Flames hockey and love the Flames fan base. And everybody's got any suggestions, you reach out to us on the social. So you can email us here. Just head on over to the website. There's a link to email us. We appreciate all the listeners. And Kyle, I can't wait to see what happens.
It's going to be again, there's so much up for grabs. There's so many. There's so few clear decisions to make because your team's going to be so big. I don't know. But what really I think a lot about is is this preseason success going to translate to this success for us or even Sam Boyd? 100%.
I hope so. I hope so. You look good. Is it going to translate? I don't know. in preseason, it's really hard to tell. But I guess it's better to have wins and have positives, because at least there's a chance to carry on with that.
Yeah, this for the first time in God knows how long. Well, I mean, 2022. Like, this team is headed in the right direction. As an overall organizational philosophy, right? You know, we used to plug holes with veterans that were over the hill and give spots to people, and it was so frustrating to watch for so many years. And now it's like this team's being built the right way, with tons of prospect, tons of cap space. Yeah, and actually, Flames calendar for October, this month's player is Jonathan Huberdeau. So I'm really curious to see if he can get into the 60 to 80 point range and have a big year for the first time in Calgary. I certainly hope so.
We're going to talk about it next week when we talk projections. We're going to find out where Kyle and I both think the Flames will end up in the standings. All kinds of talk about next week on Flames Unfiltered. Flames fans, have a great week. We will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to Flames Unfiltered with Brad Burud and Kyle Lewis, your source for unfiltered Calgary Flames hockey talk. Keep it locked on flamesunfiltered.ca. Subscribe where you get all your podcasts to never miss an episode. Flames hockey talk every week, presented by Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.